And now our fifth story out front, changing the rules of the game. Republicans in a number of states that President Obama won in November want to change the way electoral votes in their states are distributed. So let me explain. Currently, all states, except for Nebraska and Maine, award all of their electoral votes to the candidate who wins the popular vote. So if you win 51% of the vote, you get 100% of the electoral votes. But states like Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Ohio are looking to award electoral votes by congressional district, and that would give the GOP a huge advantage in some crucial swing states. John King is out front with how these changes could have actually affected this past election.
If every state, if all 50 states allocated electoral college votes based on congressional district, guess what? Mitt Romney would be the president right now. He would have won 273 to 262. Now, in 08, Obama still would have beat John McCain, but by a smaller margin. So I want to show you a little bit about what they're talking about. If you look at the state of Ohio, again, the president carries it with 51%, but Mitt Romney carried 12 of the 16 congressional districts in the state of Ohio. So this state is considering passing a bill that says not winner take all statewide, do it by congressional district. And another state considering this, the state of Virginia. The governor now says he doesn't support this law. Not enough state Senate Republicans support this law. But in the state of Virginia, again, President Obama narrowly carries it. But if you look at it here, it's 7 of 11. Mitt Romney carried 7 of the 11 congressional districts here, so he would have won the majority of the electoral college vote. So if you pull out to the country, if you did it by congressional district, Mitt Romney, in all 50 states, Mitt Romney would be the president today. What about this? This appears now to be dying a little bit, but what makes it fascinating to me is if you did have a change like this, just look at it. If you did it that way, what would change? Well, Democrats would be down campaigning in places like Alabama, places like Georgia, any of these voting rights states that have African-American congressional districts. And guess what? We'd have a presidential campaign in which Republicans would be out campaigning in California. We haven't seen that since that Bush campaign, really, in 1988, and even in the states of Pennsylvania and especially New York. So if you did this in all 50 states, it would make for a very, very different presidential election.
It's not intrinsically crazy.
That's pretty amazing. I want to bring in Reihan, Salam, and Roland Martin to talk about this because, Reihan, I find this amazing. You know, when John's talking about you'd have to have Republicans would get to be campaigning in the state of California. You'd have Democrats having to campaign in states that they just take for granted right now, New York or New Jersey, right? That's pretty amazing. That seems to be good. There's so many people in this country who, frankly, are disenfranchised because your vote does not count if you're in a state that always goes R, always goes D if you're on the other side.
Well, one of the big reasons Democrats are upset about this idea is that the congressional districts are now drawn in such a way that really benefits Republicans. The thing is that come the next census, that could flip around and Democrats could be drawing those boundaries in a way that benefits them. So I think that there's not an intrinsic problem with doing it this way.
Right.
The problem is when you do it in a kind of half-baked kind of way, in which some states move in this direction, but other states do not. That's when you get into trouble, and that's when you actually start engendering a backlash to the proposal.
Roland, so if these changes were to take place, I mean, you know, take Ohio, as John was just referring to, and Virginia, where Republicans would dominate. You'd have Mitt Romney winning Ohio and winning the presidential election. Are Democrats prepared to dramatically alter their ground game? Roland's point aside that, you know, when whoever draws the districts, it'll change. But are they ready?
Driving over here, I talked to a senior Obama official, and they are extremely worried about this. They've already established a task force internally to look at these electoral college proposals. And so, look, they see what's going on. They say, sure, this thing is petering out. McDonald comes out against it, but they understand it. But, Erin, you need to we got to broaden this as well. Keep in mind, 2008, then Senator Obama actually won one of those electoral college votes in Nebraska in that campaign. But also, this is the problem for Democrats. And that is, in 1988, after Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. lost to Dukakis, Ron Brown, Harold Ickes, and the late Ron Walters led the effort to move Democrats from winner take all in the Democratic primary to proportional delegation. One of the reasons Senator Obama won the nomination was because of proportional delegation. When he lost Nevada to Senator Hillary Clinton, he won more delegates because he won the congressional districts. And so Democrats may complain about it, but they also have proportional delegation in their own party.
Yeah, which is interesting. And, Reihan, you know, to me, this, if there was a way to just do it, you know, forget congressional districts, because everybody cheats. And then when, you know, the other guy's drawing the lines, you say he's cheating, and then, you know, okay, everybody cheats. But if you just did popular vote percent and just did proportional allocation, as Roland's talking about, that would Wouldn't that be more fair? I mean, I don't think it's fair right now if 51% of the vote in a state goes to one guy, he gets 100% of the Electoral College votes. It doesn't add up.
That's a very interesting idea, because to the point you raised before, so when you're talking about, in California is a Democratic state,
yes,
but there are a lot of Republicans in that Democratic state, and you don't have Republican presidential candidates trying to win their votes. So if you said that, if Republicans are, have 40% of the vote, allocate 40% of those delegates, of those electors, that's not a crazy idea. The problem is that in Virginia, the state that set off this controversy, the state senator, Bill Carrico, his idea was not only do distribute these by congressional district, you also give the 2 additional electors to the candidate who wins the most districts rather than the most votes in that state. Now, that's an idea that really set people off. Exactly, unlike Maine and Nebraska. That's an idea that really set people off, because it says that, even if someone loses the state overall, they're not going to get those 2 extra electors? That's crazy.
Erin, this is what this whole thing also really exposes. It exposes the weakness of the Democratic Party by focusing on national elections and not state elections. One of the reasons we're seeing these take place, just like voter suppression laws, just like when it comes to abortion, just like when it comes to the president's health care plan, is that Republicans flipped 16 legislatures in 2010. Democrats have got to understand, if you do not have statewide parties, if you're not running statewide, this is how you lose. Howard Dean talked about a 50-state strategy. If Democrats don't begin to understand that and keep letting Republicans take over the House and the Senate and the governor's mansions in states, we're going to see more of this happen. And so this really is exposing the weakness of the Democratic Party statewide as opposed to winning nationally.
All right. Thanks to both of you. Roland, Reihan, have a wonderful weekend.